Ladies and gentlemen, to present tonight's first award, please welcome former Deputy Mayor and current President of LA Trade Tech Community College, Larry Frank.
In 1987, when Gary Stewart turned 30 years old, in his classic Gary Stewart way, he decided he was not fully satisfied with his life, that he wanted more. Although he had been doing great work at Rhino Records for the prior 10 years, Rhino Records, he wanted to make a difference in LA. His jumping off point was the Ocean Park Community Center, one of the first groups dealing with the rising homelessness in Los Angeles, which was then run coincidentally by Vivian Rothstein, who went to be a key player at Lane. Then he realized that he wanted to be more overtly political, which led him to Coalition 88, an effort by a group of seasoned LA organizers to impact the 1988 elections. If you ask Gary, he describes his experience of wanting to work for the Democratic Party and inadvertently finding the movement as something like, quote, appreciating the Who and then discovering the Clash. One of the organizers he met at that storefront in 1988 was Michelle Pritchard, who jumped from there to lead the Liberty Hill Foundation, turning it into the incubator for LA's now legendary progressive nonprofit landscape. Gary took some of the inspiration that he brought to his philanthropic efforts at Rhino from Liberty Hill's work. He was also blessed by working for an amazing company with two remarkable founders and leaders, Harold Bronson and Richard Foos. Give it up. Give it up for them. So Richard was already involved with Ben Cohen of Ben & Jerry's and the Social Venture Network, and with Gary, they partnered to develop the Rhino Fund and a host of groundbreaking employee programs that developed organically before anyone else was doing it. Things like paid time off for volunteering, an employee giving program, and value-based social messaging in their packaging of millions of CDs every year. This supported one of the most creative workplace cultures LA has ever seen. With the Rhino Fund, Richard, Harold, and Gary put several $1 million in direct support into the veins of progressive nonprofit LA. When you get home tonight, look in the ad journal. It's on page 31, and you will see a special page with a list of the organizations that Gary helped fund early on in his progressive work. In the late 1990s, Richard and Harold sold their business to Time Warner, and Time Warner brought in new leadership to integrate Rhino into Time Warner. But Time Warner was so impressed, the new leadership that came in, by the powerful culture they found, a culture that owed so much to Gary, that they flipped the model and tried instead to fold Time Warner's music division into Rhino Entertainment. So I'm no expert on the music industry, so I talked to several industry leaders to understand Gary's impact during his long tenure as Rhino's senior VP of A&R. So Scott Pascucci, who headed Rhino after its purchase, yes, give it up to Scott. After its purchase by Time Warner, told me, and I quote, Gary was largely responsible for redefining the way the music industry looks at their catalog. The highest compliment about a music release that I have heard from friends and critics, and I've heard it many times, is that it is so good, it is like a Rhino release. So much of that was Gary's love of, and I'll say it, obsession with the artist's work, an amazing attention to detail and packaging, and his sense of humor. He was Rhino's creative guy, end of quote. Richard Foos adds, Gary was our fourth hire at the label, putting in 26 years. After the very first records, he was responsible for the creation of virtually every album we released. Melinda Newman, the editor of Billboard magazine, told me this. Every one of Gary's compilations has hidden gems, including songs I did not know and couldn't believe I did not know, and his research was impeccable. And you know, Gary is a little cynical, but he's never cynical about music. He knows more than anyone what a great song can do, that it can literally save your life. So Gary went on to do that same work with iTunes for 7 years and is now with Apple Music. He keeps his hands in two of the organizations that he came to deeply admire from his 20 years on the board of the Liberty Hill Foundation and 4 years as their board chair. Wanting to make his contribution on issues of racial justice in Los Angeles, he joined the board of the Community Coalition, the iconic social justice organization built by Congresswoman Karen Bass and now led by Alberto Retana. Alberto, where are you? Give us a wave. Where are you, Alberto? And with 20 years of involvement with Lane, where he serves on the advisory board, he regularly throws down for what many of us believe is the most advanced progressive economic policy organization within the LA landscape. But I would not do a decent job of introducing Gary if I did not add the personal side of the Gary many of us know so well. The popular culture maven who pushes his favorite movies, shows, and music like so much heroin onto the sometimes culture-deprived progressives. From the mass addiction he fostered for The Wire, Deadwood, and Friday Night Lights, to his personal crusade to make everyone listen to his compilations of Phil Oakes, to the 37 years of his losers' Christmas parties. Okay, we got some cadre in the room. Gary shares his love in a way only he can. So Gary, the many here who appreciate your sharp wit and critique and underlying drive and passion, we are your huddled masses, yearning to be free. And I know I and so many of us are freer than we ever would have been without you in our personal and political lives. So as a surprise, and I think this really is a surprise for Gary right now, I am thrilled to announce that Lane is permanently naming an award in your honor for entertainment industry figures who advance social change. So in recognition of your many years of hard work in elevating what is best in Los Angeles, I present you with the inaugural Gary Stewart Entertainment and Justice Award. Gary Stewart. Give it up for Gary. Come on, stand up, everybody. Get a little bit of exercise. Come on.
Wow, thank you so much. It was a surprise. I'm guessing that if you were here last year, I think some of you were just clapping because this time I'm not standing in front of a giant thermometer asking you for money this year. So, but don't worry, somebody's going to be up here to do that later. And the other people, I think, were thinking that if you hide in the bathroom for 30 days, that maybe you can stay here for the Golden Globes. So sorry to disappoint you. They got great security here. So yeah, I was up here exactly a year ago. And 2017 for me has been a year of many anniversaries, and all of them connected in some meaningful way. 60 years on the planet. As Larry mentioned, 30 years of involvement in some form of activism or service. 40 years in the music business. And finally, what might be the most important anniversary for me, it's been nearly 50 years since I bought my first record. And that's the most important one because it was music that got me on the path that led to this room tonight. But that path starts a little earlier. I grew up in this middle-class Jewish family, seeing my father always reading books and my mother volunteering for the League of Women Voters. And my brother Mark was very accomplished at chess. I wasn't, but that taught me the beauty of strategy, something that Lane really embodies. But more importantly, Mark introduced me to music and this world of strange sounds and possibilities. So when I hear a song or an album that intrigues me, I'm really looking for some deeper meaning, some new truth or understanding. Now, two of my first records were War by Edwin Starr, and some people remember it, that's great, and The Temptations' Ball of Confusion. And I bought them because there was something mysterious and challenging about those songs that I couldn't understand at the time. But even then, I knew that there was more going on than just this catchy song. Many, many years later, I'd realized that these records were trying to tell me and explain how class and race was playing out in the Vietnam era. And in many ways, how they sometimes still play out today. So that kind of meaning is what turns a song I like, kind of like, into what becomes my favorite song. So yeah, music helped me make sense of the world before I knew much about politics, and long, long before I understood what my own politics were. About 10 years into that obsession with music, punk rock comes along and really changes me. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, what did I look like in a dog collar with a safety pin in my nose or a mohawk hairdo? And I don't want to disappoint you, but I kind of look more boring than I do now, with maybe an even kind of lamer version of this haircut and nerdier glasses. Because punk for me wasn't just about anger or aggression, but really about questioning the way things were and the better possibilities implied in this radical do-it-yourself approach. Those early records coming from England were the first time I heard anybody singing about subjects like unemployment, police abuse, and the violent consequences of nationalism. Punk was my first movement, and I was sure that I could find all the answers. Yeah, I was sure that I could find all the answers in that latest song from The Jam, or Billy Bragg, or the new album from Patti Smith. But the answers just weren't there. The questions were, maybe some of the real challenges. The answers, that meaning I was searching for, well, that would require taking action. One of those early taking action moments led me to this dingy office space in a mini mall off Western Avenue in 1988 to volunteer for precinct walking and election work. And that's where I met two of my mentors, Larry Frank and Michelle Pritchard. And they showed me parts of LA that too many of us never see or ever pay attention to. I felt this sense of excitement and discovery. Finally, there was some real meaning, something that went beyond music. Now that meaning came again in 1996 when I met Lane's founder, Madeline Janis, a big influential person in my life. This was just as they were beginning work on the passage of the first ever living wage ordinance. And that helped me understand something about my first ever work experience way back in high school. When I was 16 years old, I started working at McDonald's because I wanted pocket money to buy records and go to concerts. Like most of us there, I was just happy to get a minimum wage. But over time, I noticed that among my fellow teenagers were some employees who were my parents' age and some that didn't quite speak the language well or look like me. And if I'm honest, at the time, I just thought of that as a novelty. So when the minimum wage went up every year, we all got an automatic raise. I was just elated thinking, hey, that's free money. I just had no idea what that raise meant for those people I thought of as a novelty, who in reality were just there trying to raise a family or be part of our country or make a living. For those people, for them, that raise was a necessity, not a luxury. Years later, after the passage of the first living wage ordinance, I finally got it. And that happened when I read an LA Times article profiling a janitor who, because of that law, went from sleeping on cardboard boxes on the floor to having a bed, from a 3-hour bus ride to owning a car, from no access to medical care to getting health insurance. Now, Lane's work on the living wage ordinance, by the way, is the reason that we're having this national discussion about $15 an hour in 2017. By the way, theme of the dinner, when I was first told that Out of Many was the theme of this year's dinner, I was apprehensive because I thought the many referred to which of the over 50 Elvis Costello albums they were going to ask me to prune from my record collection. But whew, relief. It turns out that wasn't the case. The many is about communities that might look and sound and feel different to one another at first glance. Or it's about organizers and activists and nonprofit workers. And tonight, the many are also business people and artists and donors and the role they play in this work. Now, two key people who got me involved tonight are Stella Malloyan and Roxana Tynan. Who stretch and inspire capacity beyond what I think I can do and often beyond what I want to do. They always talk about how Lane is, quote, in it to win it. And that win it part is why I'm with Lane. More than just vision and aspiration, in it to win it means results, and it means victories. Two key people who keep me involved, some of you know them, are Paula and Barry Litt. And they're already always talking with me about the need to match rhetoric with results. And results, again, are where I find that meaning. But those results don't magically appear. They come from a trained staff, from years of learning, from real office space, and that means resources. And where do those resources come from? Well, I've come to realize that I can't make my best contribution at the phone bank, on the doorstep, or marching in the streets, though I still engage in and sometimes maybe even enjoy. Okay, I just tolerate those activities, but they're important. I've learned that for now, I make my contribution by raising money. There is this term I've resisted and made fun of because it sounded empty at first, donor activist. And I now embrace it. It means that when you write a check, it's not a disconnected act of leave me alone armchair liberalism. It's profound. If you bought a ticket, purchased an ad, or give during the pitch, guess what? You're a donor activist. You're part of this work. And that means you're also a part of going from one person sleeping on a bed instead of a floor to thousands of people off of that floor. Now, before I go, I want to bring it back to a few more key donor activists in the music business that played a big part in tonight. First, there's AEG. Now, AEG came to the table to make LA Live a responsible development. Didn't have to do that. They did that because they understand the connection between the possibilities of music, art, and entertainment, and the possibilities of housing and decent jobs, and that those two things matter together. Then there's Harold Bronson and Richard Foos, who created Rhino, and with it, a culture that helped me understand how the music business could really have a deeper meaning. They encouraged me to do things that would have gotten me fired at any other company. And because of my early work habits, by the way, they tolerated things that should have gotten me fired at any other company. Their vision of Rhino did more to bring out the best in me than any other institution. And finally, there's Scott Pascucci, who came to Rhino from this corporate background with a corporate mandate, and instead of dismantling Rhino against all reason and expectation, he preserved that culture which is kind of a bummer because he took the courage out of all of the fun of my cynicism I had at the time. So thanks a lot, Scott. Seriously, it means a lot that you're here. I'm just so grateful for this honor, for all of you being here and being part of the many, for you showing up and supporting this event and recognizing the importance of the work we've been talking about. Tonight, you're that meaning I'm searching for, the meaning in my favorite moment, the meaning in my favorite movement, and ultimately, you're the meaning in my favorite song. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the co-chair of Lane's advisory board and the CEO of Concord Bicycle Music, Scott Pascucci.
Hello. So, I thought I'd get more applause than that. Thank you. Because then I was going to come out and say, oh, don't give me the applause, you don't understand my role. But you sort of fed right into it, and then I had to beg for it, which is embarrassing. So I'm Scott Pascucci. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Lane Advisory Board. I am a longtime fan of Gary Stewart. I am sorry to have, what did I hear from the back? Did I do something to his cynicism? Did I fuck with his cynicism somehow? But I have plenty, so if you need any, just come on by, I'll give it back to you. I'm also a longtime fan of Dan Beckerman. Did they do it? Yeah. I'm also this person. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. That's me when I was like 11 or 12. And I'll come back to that in a little bit. I volunteered for this gig, for better or worse, purely out of a love for Lane. I don't enjoy this sort of thing, but here I am. I'm standing up here, hopefully, to persuade you to donate money. Yeah, I know. The fun's gone out of the room. So my best case is that enough of you donate quickly, make this painless for all of us. The alternative is you let me twist, and this could get ugly. I have a goal in mind of what I want to get to financially. Actually, I don't have a goal in mind. I was told what goal to have in mind, so that's the goal I have in mind. I was told to get to $40,000. I have about 7 minutes to do it. I've just burned up like 3 minutes with all my gibberish. There's about 1,000 of you in the room. You know, hopefully you can all do that math. If not, we got the first of our problems. Okay, the picture's gone, thank God. So let me tell you how I came to be involved in Lane and to be such a fan of its mission. The answer is Gary Stewart, right? You sense the themes here. So many years ago, I'll tell a story about Rhino, but don't worry, it's not the same story. It has to do with that bar over there. Many years ago, when I took the job at Rhino, they had a community and philanthropy program, which I didn't immediately understand or embrace. I did not come in on day one and say, oh, I get it, this is great, I just had an epiphany. But the teleprompter's having trouble with what I'm doing. It's kind of funny. But Gary persisted in inviting me to events like this one, to Liberty Hill, to Community Coalition, and others, and I went. And one night, standing over there by that bar, which for those of you that come to a lot of events here, you know that's one of the core bars, I said, Gary, I appreciate the fact that you always invite me to these things, but I feel kind of badly because I don't seem to be joining any of your causes. And And this went on for a while. And Gary gave me one of those looks, which he does, sort of pleasant, indulgent, humorous looks, like, you know, he's reading the inside of your brain. And he said, well, I'm just going to keep inviting you until you get it. And shortly thereafter, at a Lane hotel, I guess it was a job action, I got it. And now I find myself writing checks, volunteering for Lane, and, you know, standing up here monologuing in the hope that I can get some action out of all you. So here's the drill. I could have said this 3 minutes ago, but I'll tell you now. I want to raise $40,000. I have a few minutes. There will be 5 calls to action. The first one is coming up. This is all done by text. I think we need a visual. Okay. So here's our first one. So what you do is you type in 56512 as your address. You type in the word justice. You put a space. I don't think it matters if it's all in caps. Maybe it is. The dollar amount, another space, and your name. And this is not a Lauren Hardy skit. You don't type pledge amount and you don't type your name, right? You put in a dollar amount and you actually put your real name. Or you could put you know, Mike Pence as your name. Because they're going to call you on your phone number and ask you for your credit card, I think is how it works. The only other thing I'll mention is if you are Verizon, you may have some trouble in this room. It's just it's a curiosity of the room and service. If you do, just put in your, you know, put it in, and when you walk out tonight, it'll come through. So let me start by regaling you with some of the many reasons to donate to Lane. The first is, of course, guilt, which I believe is society's second oldest emotion, maybe the third, depending on how you rank lust and fear. We actually had a debate about this out in the hallway. You should not all feel guilt. The people that should feel guilt are the ones that didn't buy a table. You're here with your friends. You've heard about Lane. You think it's cool. But as of this moment, you are a freeloader, right? Let's be blunt. So, we're going to have a thing that sort of rolls and tells us as people are donating money, right? Oh, okay. Oh, some people didn't need my instructions. Second, even better reason to donate to Lane is all the things that it does. Now, the theme for tonight is E pluribus unum. You have heard that phrase ad nauseum, which is also Latin, but is thankfully not the theme for tonight's event. E pluribus unum is supposed to be one of the core principles of our society and our country. Which is why you can find it engraved all over the place. This is what I did this afternoon when I was supposed to be working on a deal. I started looking at money. Quarter has it. Nickel has it, at least the new nickel does. The penny has it. The dime was too small, I couldn't read it. E pluribus unum is also on the seal of the president, seal of the vice president, seal of the House, seal of the Senate, seal of the Supreme Court. The teleprompter just went, so, a little further. There we go. Unfortunately, lately it has been replaced by the less catchy phrase that I made up a few days ago called Quae est de me, which is Google Translate in Latin for roughly everything is all about me. E pluribus unum is also the motto of the school where I grew up, where my dad was a Latin and Greek professor. I studied both Latin and Greek for 5 years to make him happy and to prepare for this moment, which is why we have this picture of me in a kind of a toga-looking thing. Well, it's gone now. I also found, when I was looking for funny pictures, I found one of me in a Greek, what do you call that? No, the thing you wear to war. No, the metal armor. In Greek armor when I was about 6, but tonight's theme is not Greek, so we're not going to go there. So, second call to action, please. Let's do the instructions one more time. So you type 56512, you type the word justice, you leave a space, you put in a dollar amount, you leave another space, you put in your name, and you hit send, okay? So how are we doing on the big board here? Wow, okay. All right, we're going beyond 40. We want to go to 50. I don't know if we can show 50. All right, so I have to get through my speech. There's nothing I can do about it. Even if we get to 40, I still have to go through my speech. So when we say E pluribus unum is tonight's motto, we should remember that, yeah, I'll do the shush thing. Historically, it is the de facto motto of our country, and that groups like Lane are the counterforce to it's all about me. We should all want to have a fair, inclusive economy that works for everyone, that wants everyone to succeed, that values diversity. We should, but not everybody wants that. Not everyone cares about each other as much as we care about ourselves. And so we need Lane to help counterbalance those forces, to keep our scales as level as possible. That's why you come tonight. That's why you donate money. A little history for some of you is that these catchy Latin phrases come to us courtesy of the Roman Empire. They do. The Roman Empire was a mixed bag, like all empires. Well, it was. Started by a guy named Romulus who killed his brother Remus. It started badly. But a lot of what was good about the Roman Empire came from Rome, the city, and that was the source of its foundational strength. And the same has been true of our country, where many of the best things about our country come from the cities. That is especially true now when Washington cares. Bring it down. That is especially true now when Washington cares less and less about our communities, about the people who live in them. Until Washington starts to lead again, the innovative programs are going to come from the cities and from groups like Lane. So, what are we up to? Are we actually up to 40,000? Okay. All right. Somebody give a few more $1,000 so we can get me off the. Yeah, no, I'm in for some, but I didn't do it when I sit down. Okay, teleprompter, can you give me my last paragraph, and then we'll wrap this up. There we go. Yeah, if you still, I've totally lost my place. Go a little further. Okay, so if you are still hesitating about donating tonight, imagine a world without Lane. You've heard this before. There would be no minimum wage increase in LA. There'd be 1 million people deprived of a decent wage. Thousands of diesel spewing trucks still on the roads. Hotel workers here and across the city with bad pay and few benefits. And poverty wage jobs at major developments across the city. Those are the things that Lane has accomplished since I've been involved and over their 20-plus year history. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you for coming out. This is awesome. Cool. I hope that wasn't too painful for you.
And now to present tonight's next award, please welcome boxing legend and the founder of Golden Boy Productions, Oscar De La Hoya.
Good evening and congratulations, Gary. What a speech! Oh my gosh! I mean, I think I remember you from a mosh pit somewhere back in the punk days.